Hey, if possible, Jennifer said that these are available. I don't know if it would be good to, like, in the introduction, just say that we've got these nice, cool stickers that everybody can take and then go see Jennifer and Hale. Is that okay?
Sure.
I think so. She just told me to say that we had those. Okay. You want them?
I see.
Or you want me to leave it? I'll leave it at the podium.
It'll go.
Okay.
Hey, Nancy and Cheeky was not feeling well this week.
Okay.
If I had noticed, it would be so much fun. Like,
Zoom. Okay. Pimper stickers. Yeah. Yeah.
I will.
But so will they come to you for it?
Yeah, tell them to find you. Okay.
Oh, we can hand the basket out. That would be actually be efficient,
Will you have enough to pass the basket around? Everybody takes one, I'm sure.
She's got a whole basket, like a whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that would be nice, or maybe after they answer questions, we can throw it at them. During the Q&A, Eileen, I'm gonna put on ear pods because she's gonna talk to me, like if there's chat questions. So we have a walkie-talkie. So just as an FYI.
You guys are just getting
We,
better.
actually, it was kind of nice because we were walkie-talking each other throughout the session. Because the sound, sometimes we hear it good here, but the live stream, it might be different as well. So I've got the slides up, so we should be good.
And so,
We probably
Mike
need some.
will start the video. I won't have to click anything.
Yeah, just make sure Mike knows he's doing sound because he forgets a lot. And I have CT could do the sound if we need him to. Oftentimes he forgets. I might just move this back one.
yeah, be the centerpiece.
So Becky is asking Mike if he could do sound for that, but appreciate the mics.
I'll just run these around.
And then if there's specific questions on budget stuff too, if I don't know it, I might punt it to you as well. Okay, good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
There's great minds in Sue, great minds in Joel. Yeah. You got it. Yeah, we got it.
So Nancy was not feeling well this morning, so she's gonna, she needs.
And I'm sure Michelle will zoom in.
Okay, so we need how many chairs? There's
We see here,
Catherine, myself,
Mark.
oh, Mark Anderson. Yeah.
So we need 5 chairs, I think.
Room 345.
Because 2 are out, right? 2 are out.
Yes.
Yeah.
well, I'm hard of hearing, but I felt that Chris didn't really have that mic up around her mouth. But
Yeah.
it wasn't as clear.
I tried to turn it up for her, but she.
I don't think she was close enough.
Yeah, so make sure.
The difference when Keegan was up there, I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, when Keegan up there was like really loud.
Such a stage presence.
Yeah.
She really,
So I had some buttons like turned down or turned off because I thought that was, and then in the beginning it was actually I needed to turn the buttons on, so that's what it was like, that's what was the pause.
Mike said he remembered 5 minutes ago, so he's up.
Okay.
Is there a sneak peek of items
Do you want me to call something?
It's my phone.
No. Do you want me to call it though?
Maybe.
I don't know if I have your
Probably
in your
not, but
contact.
it's also not going to make any noise.
Oh,
Yeah.
Becky, do you want me to shuttle you in here or?
Whenever you're ready. It's about 10 after.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's go.
Maybe you can say something on the mic about we're gonna get started.
Meeting's about to start. Please come into the sanctuary. Don't make us flip those lights on and off. Okay.
Over here.
Is everyone almost in here now? Is that,
So,
hey Wayne, is this about
yeah,
right?
like
Sound
a-
about right?
Like a question that we can't answer or I can answer. Yeah, we can hand her across what CT, yeah, CT is. Yeah, I talked to her about that. Talked to him about that before.
So after Wayne comes up and does this, which is very brief, you'll just take over.
Yeah. Thank you, Becky.
Can everybody take a seat and we'll get started so we can get out of here on time? Okay, thanks everyone for getting in here. I'm Becky Gregory. I want to introduce, for newer members perhaps, members of the board who are here. Joel Kramer, President. Catherine Inyard, Treasurer. Sue Buckley, Trustee. And Mark Anderson, Secretary. I'm Vice President of the board. A couple of our members are watching from home, Nancy Sheehy and Michelle O'Donnell. Done everyone right, I think? Okay.
Well, I'm Joel Burkew, by the way.
Oh, what'd I say?
Joel Kramer.
Oh, I used to work for him in 1980. He was editor of the Buffalo Courier Journal.
I thought you were like, I'm Kramer from the Seinfeld.
No.
It's like, yeah, that's me.
No. Wow. I haven't thought about him in many years. Anyway, he was a great guy. But Joel Burkew is also. My apologies. Oh, God, who knows? You know, I'm glad this is a day where we cannot make mistakes, right? Oh, goodness. Well, welcome, everybody. We have important business to conduct today. We have a lot of, I think, new and more in-depth information that our members need. This meeting always comes in the meeting in December always comes after the pageant, and I just think that's a perfect combination. It comes after a wonderful day here yesterday. It was so fun that after I finished my shift, I just hung out because I was with the good people. It was a lot of fun. And, you know, I was so struck by this church having a Christmas pageant where there are no mistakes. That's just so you. And I was thinking about what a terrific addition Chris is to our church. And I was reminded that UUs can receive blessings too, and Chris is definitely one. We have some other fun, exciting activity going on here. Jennifer Hale, who's the best marketing guru and graphic designer a church can ever hope to have, especially when we don't have to pay her, has done these great stickers that you can put on your car. And we'll go ahead and start. She's going to pass around a basket.
We're not the police if you're putting them on your car, but we want
You
to
can-
put the word out about the church.
But we will judge you if you don't.
Yeah.
I drive rather fast, so I'm hesitant to put this on there for fear that I'll reflect badly on my vote, but I'm thinking about it. Anyway, they're really cool, and we're so grateful for all that Jennifer does for us. So take one for however cars you got or where you want to put it. So, at Live Oak, we're a place where there are no mistakes in the Christmas pageant, but also, importantly, we're not concerned with saving souls. And I was thinking about that growing up in a church where everything was about saving your soul, that we're not here to help populate heaven, but we're here to serve souls, is how I think about it. We feed our own souls by being a member of this congregation. We have friendships here, terrific, thoughtful discussions, sometimes arguments, provocative sermons, great classes, and so many other activities like yesterday, which was just a blast. And we serve our neighbors outside this immediate community with direct help, such as ESL, ABE, and our Reading Academy, and Fresh Food for All, just 2 examples. But we also serve the souls of our broader community by living our values outside this building. And so, courtesy of Reverend Joanna's video skills, here's a look at our amazing year and the soul-serving work that we've accomplished inside and outside Live Oak. I hope as you're watching it that you remember to congratulate yourself, because everyone has done so much this year. And I'd ask Mike to, oh, you know what, back it up, Mike, can you do that? I'm sorry, I wanted to review, well, you know what, you don't have to, because look, I printed it on paper. We're gonna do this year in review. Wayne Gregory is going to talk about the reproductive justice item that we'll be voting on. Joel has some important business updates and some important explanations about the budget. We'll talk about stewardship, and then we will vote, and Joel will help us figure out how to do that. So now we can go to the video. Sorry, Mike.
Okay.
There it is.
Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
We hear in a variety of ways that love is the spirit of. Every week on Sunday mornings, we hear in a variety of ways that love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. Our moral and spiritual beliefs command us to speak out and show up. When we act on justice issues, we are living our values, and that is good for everyone.
A labyrinth is a metaphor for life's journey, representing the twists and turns of our lives. I never know when I walk the labyrinth what I might come away with, but while each walk is different, the benefits are similar. Whether it be a new insight, a sense of comfort, a creative idea, a solution to a problem, or just a feeling of calm. The labyrinth receives my cares and gives me peace in return.
We need our whole lives at Live Oak because well-informed youth make better, healthier decisions about their sexuality and learn to explore and articulate their own values. We need our whole lives at Live Oak because Texas has the 9th highest teen birth rate in the country, is first in repeat births among teens, has the strictest abortion laws in the country, and has no state sex ed requirement. We need our whole lives at Live Oak because we are literally saving our children from lawmakers who have never once put children first. And if we don't talk to our kids about their bodies and puberty and sex ed and relationships and values and give them self-esteem, then no one will. We are Texas's only chance.
When Live Oak marches in the Dr. King parade, we are telling everyone that our religion is deeply committed to social justice. In 1965, after years of citizens being denied their right to vote, the civil rights movement was near a point of desperation. Dr. King contacted our religious leaders and asked them to come to Selma. Immediately, Unitarians from throughout the country responded. We can take pride in being members of Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church as we march in solidarity with our neighbors on Dr. Martin Luther King Day.
As a member of Live Oak's Lit Wits Book Club, I encounter books that are literally chosen myself. And then when we get together for the book discussion, I hear ideas that broaden my worldview. Live Oaks Book Club enriches and informs my life.
Being able to host the Queer Empower Conference was really special for Live Oak. It allowed us to use our space and our talents to give back to the LGBTQ plus community. The attendance was incredible, exemplifying the impact we can make to others.
And thank you so much to those of you who added audio for that. I appreciate you guys doing it. Wayne is going to come up and just briefly talk about the reproductive justice proposal that we'll be voting on, and we'll do all the voting at the end of the meeting. So this will be one of the items you'll be voting on.
Good morning, I'm Wayne Kramer. Gregory. Good to see you all this morning. This is a great day, a great meeting. I'm here as a liaison to the Executive Committee for Community Ministries, and I want to talk just a moment about the vote that we're going to take today and getting a designation as a Reproductive Freedom Congregation. But first, I want to thank, we wouldn't be here if it were not for the work of Kathleen Houston and her able assistant and husband, Steve Leiter, back there. So thank you so much for your diligence and your persistence and your dedication. Thank you so much. Audrey McCann has also been a helper along the way with advice and instructions and design. But the vote today is whether we'll become a Reproductive Freedom Congregation. It's designated by the Texas Freedom Network. The goal is to have churches educate their congregations on reproductive health as a moral good and have an alliance to work together politically and to rightfully reclaim abortion as a faith issue. 27 churches in Texas now have this designation. So this essentially is the slide. I'm not going to read it for you. You can read it yourself. These are the 3 principles that we will affirm as we take a vote on this a little bit later. A straw poll, Kathleen's been conducting polls, straw polls showed a lot of support for this particular designation. And so hope you'll think about it, consider it, and vote yes.
Thank you, Wayne. If you wanted to move to the next slide, Mike. So, I don't understand how this works. Well, we'll figure it out as we go. But I'm Joel Kramer Berkew, and thank you everybody for being here. And again, I do want to say that, like Becky said, the pageant earlier today was just a joy to be around. So I know Chris is not in the room, but thank you so much, Chris, for such a wonderful pageant today. And thank you, Curtis, for all the wonderful music and the choir and everything as well. So thank you so much. I'm going to get into a little bit more of the meat of some of the business issues, and then I'll go into the budget, and then we'll go into a little bit of stewardship as well for kind of a primer for next year as well. So in the business we're going to talk about growth metrics, how we can request from the LOUU board, some capital improvements that have been made over the course of the year as well, and new insurance. Very exciting, new insurance, but actually it is actually pretty important. I'll tell a little bit about that as well. So if you want to move to the next slide. So our goal really for 2023, and I think it's going to be a continued goal for 2024, is increased growth. I think this is important for the health and the vitality of our church as well, to see new faces and have people contributing. I think we've really been a beacon to the northern part of Austin, and so I think that growth is very essential for our church, and something that we all need to be a part of as well. Some things that we've done to help out from the board, is at least in terms of our focus for increasing growth, is to set up the marketing team. And thank you very much, Jennifer, for some of the materials, but also Jennifer has actually done a lot of good materials throughout the year when we do our different events as well. For outreach, we have tried to go out into the community, and I think we've done a lot of good work out in the community. Tim had mentioned in the video about the Leander MLK March. We had a huge turnout for that, and that was awesome. And I had a lot of people, this was the Leander MLK March. I had a lot of people in that group say, oh man, Live Oak is out there marching for MLK. Man, I want to be a part of that. So again, more examples of that. I think the Round Rock Pride booth was a great example. Alyssa really took that and organized that. So thank you so much, Alyssa, for doing that. And in fact, she was like, oh, I didn't know you were doing Queer and Power at the same time. I was like, let's do both, right? So that was great.
But you did not ask for permission.
That's right, right. Well, and I think it's good to kind of run with things, and I think that was great, and I think it was highly successful too. The Juneteenth booth as well. They had a Juneteenth booth at Leander, and Wayne really kind of took the lead at that as well to kind of monitor the booth, and so thank you everybody for doing that. And then the big event at our church was the Queer and Power Conference. Very well attended. They had lots of activities going on. We had a booth there as well, but it really kind of showed people what we're all about, and that we're very supportive of the LGBTQ community in this area. We had some fun events at Live Oak. We had the pumpkin patch, and we made a little money doing it, but I think the most important thing was to go out into the community as well and interact, and if anybody worked the booth, it kind of knows that you kind of had a good chance to talk to people in the community and get to know them as well. Family Fun Day, thank you, Crystal and Jackie, for organizing. I think it really exceeded expectations. We had over 500 people at the Family Fun Day event from out the community as well. And thank you for all the volunteers that between all that, I think we had over 30 volunteers for those two events. And so it really took a village as well. And then Selfies with Santa, very successful. Reverend Joanna did most of the heavy lifting for planning, but we had quite a large amount of volunteers for that. And again, we were able to really interact with the community. Again, we made some money on the side. We did some fundraising, the silent auction, we had the bake sale, book sales as well. And actually, I'm not going to go into the numbers too much, but because we're still kind of adding them up, but I think we made a good amount of money through all those fundraising events. So we have a Fed and Informed. We've done this, I think it's once a quarter, to kind of really talk about all the activities that are going on in the church. I think that it really kind of communicates all that's going on. I know those Fed and Informed events are, they usually last a fairly long time because we're doing so much in the church, and it's so glad to hear about all that's going on. And I'd really like to continue that moving forward, just because I love eating all the food that people bring as well. And then we've actually increased the frequency of our Exploring membership class. I know Nancy unfortunately she was feeling ill and not able to be here today, but she's been doing about once a month for the Exploring membership class, and I know Reverend Joanna has been participating quite a bit in that and giving instructions on membership as well. It's a very important thing for our visitors to learn about how to be a member and be a part of our church. But because we've had such great visitor attendance, we've had to do, I think, more frequently, and I think our members are starting to grow as well. So if you move to the next slide. So unfortunately, this might be hard to read on the screen. You know, it always looks good on your computer screen, and then better on, not as good on the overall projector. But I think the bottom line here is I wouldn't worry too much about looking through it. Is that we are looking at metrics for growth, and it's an important part of us. We've been monitoring, you know, what is the attendance at church during our sessions. I think today is going to be a good spike. And you know, I've kind of monitored where some of the spike events are occurring, and I think some of them, certainly the Christmas Eve is always a good, very well attended. Some of our music performances have been very, very well attended, so thank you for our music and providing that as well. And other spikes have occurred is when we have like participation, like Family Fun Day was a very, very well attended day as well. And so I think, you know, I think we're learning from this. One thing I do want to highlight is if you look, unfortunately, it's been a year since we're keeping track, and so it's going to take more time to understand more trends. But you know, in what we're seeing is we are seeing a higher attendance per session, probably about 20 more people per service compared to last year, which is a good trend. And it's been nice if you can just anecdotally, we've seen so many new faces as well. So in church membership, we started out at the beginning of this year at about 141 members. We've increased that to 152 members, so we've seen about 11 person increase. And actually, I think that's actually pretty impressive because, unfortunately, because of a lot of the politics, you know, around Texas, we have seen some long-term members leave the congregation because they've had to move to other places, unfortunately. And so, but with that said, again, we've seen a lot of new faces, and so it's a joy to have all those new faces here at Live Oak as well. If you move to the next slide. So one thing that we instituted here was, and some of this has been around, but we did a few modifications to how to request from the Live Oak Live Oak board. You know, I get a lot of people in the hall asking me, you know, well, can this go into the board? Or I get an email. So I thought it would be good to have, you know, a good process for requesting. We had one request form previously, and we've kind of made some improvements and then, some kind of tweaks to it. But where you would access that, it's under liveoakuu.org. If you kind of go into our church, government, elected officials, you can find out more information about the board and who we are and what our purpose is as well. And what we say is, okay, if you request something from the board, there's two different types of things. One is informational. What do you want the board to know, but we don't necessarily need to act on or vote on? The second one is a voting item, and these are things that you're saying, okay, can the board vote on that? Now, with that said, we do vet, we have to kind of vet what we vote on prior to, because we can't vote on everything, mainly because sometimes it may not be a board decision, it may be an executive committee decision, etc. But we will look at things that you request on that as well. We also have, one of the purposes of this form is to kind of direct you, what kind of information do we need to have for a voting item as well? Because there's kind of, for the board to actually vote, we need kind of specific information. And so, depending on what's in the form, we may follow up with you to say, okay, can we get a little bit more information so that we can make an educated decision? And again, all board meetings are open to the public, and so if you want to attend, we do have Zoom that you can attend, but then you can also attend in person. So these are all open to Live Oak members as well. So if you move to the next slide. We've done a lot of capital improvements over over the year. We've had improvements from the flood. I think April had mentioned this. You know, we over the winter we had kind of a major flood event, but we didn't let that take us down. I think the community really came together and really built the church up right from that, and then also. There was a lot of work from people the day of and then after the day of putting this into storage bins and then bringing it back out. And so I want to thank all those volunteers that did all that work, because that was not easy, and thank you so much. I want to let you know that there's some security updates. So if you may recall from the last year, we had a nonprofit security grant from the federal government. So thank you, federal government. It's close to $150,000, about $147,000 grant. Now I can't go into all the specifics because this is a public forum, and so I don't want to go into. There might be some things that I'm not going to talk about, but what you will see is changes in terms of the door locking system. I think that's the biggest thing. One of the things with the door locking system is, it's very key and person-based decision. And so, that's kind of a security risk because, the keys could get passed around, et cetera. And so what we're going to have is more of an electronic locking system. There's going to be a keypad at the front. It's going to be installed next year because we didn't want to. Because of time, we didn't want people to be, it's already been installed, but we're going to actually have training and stuff next year because we didn't want, through the Christmas holidays, to have to, that would be kind of confusing, right? And so what we're actually providing is kind of electronic door access system. You can have there's a code that you can have, or you can work through it on your cell phone to unlock the door, or there's a card reader that you can have as well. So there's all those that are available for people as well. We'll have training on that. The nice thing is for renters as well, we can have specific access for renters that they're only able to kind of have access to the building at certain times of the day. And then, and the other nice thing is that Diane can kind of monitor this all on her computer, and she can do this at home as well to monitor the status of the building as well. We'll have security cameras all throughout the building. So we're going to have 360-degree surveillance as well. And there's going to be more improvements. I don't want to go too much into the improvements, but one of the big improvements too, and this was especially mentioned by Jeremy, is that the lighting was quite dim at night, and so we really enhanced the lighting through that security grant as well. So I don't want to go too much into detail of that, but I think those are kind of some of the security things that you'll notice as well. Energy efficient windows. So we had a very generous grant from somebody in the congregation because if you noticed upstairs, it actually got really, really hot in the summer, and that's because we had very inefficient windows. And we had somebody donate money for this, and now all of our windows upstairs have been upgraded to more energy efficient windows. So thank you so much as well. If you don't know, Gary Shaw was very instrumental into getting our elevator. In fact, he was the architect, and he pretty much did the service pro bono. Normally, if you have an architect, it would be about 10% of the elevator funds, or what it costs to have the elevator, which, I mean, if you're looking at that, it would be quite expensive. But what I would say is, unfortunately, he passed away. But with that said, the board voted, and we're dedicating the elevator as the Gary Shaw Memorial Elevator. We're going to have a plaque that says that. CT says it's coming soon, anytime.
Okay, so we're gonna have a very, very pretty one, so. So thank you, CT, for getting that going, but really, you know, Gary was so instrumental, and if anybody who worked on the elevator knows that he went above and beyond for us, so thank you, Gary, and I really, we'll probably have some sort of dedication service for him as well. Fire alarms, so Diana had mentioned to us our fire alarm system was really old and needed a serious upgrade, and the board looked at that and said that this could be a very serious safety issue if not upgraded. It's fine now, but you know, we're continually having to make improvements on it, and what we voted on is that we needed to have a new fire alarm system. The board voted on this. We have what's called the Live Oak Future Fund, and we use the Live Oak Future Fund to help pay for that. We have kind of a provision if for emergency funds will access that, and we felt like for the safety of the congregation, we would upgrade the fire alarm system. And then lastly, we have an insurance change. I want to really thank Sue Buckley for doing this, and Mark Anderson as well. We had to, so if you don't know anything about insurance, I just want to say that, yeah, lucky, but church insurances in Texas have been canceled. In fact, ours was canceled as well. But it's not just unique for Live Oak, it's all over the place. And rates of insurance have come up because of various issues, including climate change and stuff like that as well.
Power grid.
And the power grid, right. And so Sue actually had to really search for insurance company. It wasn't like they were just knocking at our door, but we found a really good one at Guide One, and the board approved to sign that as well. And so we've got the new insurance, and thank you so much, Sue and Mark, for really putting that together. Okay, if you want to move to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to budget. So I'm going to talk a little bit about money, and you know, the church is, you know, we do have a mission within the church, but it also requires money to fulfill that mission as well. We have, so our total budget expenses is about close to $400,000. I wanted to break, and by the way, I want to thank Catherine and CT for really going through that. CT is the head of our financial oversight committee. He's done a lot of really good work for us. Him and John have done kind of audits on our expenses and how to make things better. So thank you guys for putting the budget together for the board as well. And if anybody knows CT, he's a very good numbers man as well. He knows every part of the budget as well. So thank you so much.
He makes it look easy.
Yeah, he does make it look very, very easy as well. And one thing, you know, as he was going through this, and you know, he was saying, well, we have two major expenses. One is campus costs, and the other one is mission costs. So campus costs are things that support our just our campus. So if you think about it, utilities, electricity, Wi-Fi, insurance, anytime something needs to be fixed, maintenance of the lawn, etc. That's all covered by kind of in this campus cost budget. So the interesting thing is if you look at how much we earn in rentals, it's almost a one-for-one. So what we invest in the campus in expenses is pretty much paid for, maybe like $3,000 difference, but is paid for by our rentals. So rentals actually is a very important income that we do, and we appreciate all the partners that we have. I don't know if anybody knows this, but we have, 3 other religious groups that use this building as well. And we have several other folks, you know, STEM Academy, et cetera, that use this building as well. And the second aspect is mission costs, and that's really salaries and programs. So when we say salaries, really and truly, we cannot have this church without the people that salaried employees under that, and that includes our minister, our choir director, our religious education, our DFLD director, and then also our administrator as well, Diane. All of them put in a lot of time to make every service, every week, something that is, you know, something that we can really reflect on, and actually what Becky was saying earlier is fill our souls and really fill others' souls as well. And the mission costs are really paid for by financial contributions and fundraisers. And our expenses, and we're going to be talking about this as well, our expenses looking at next year is about $289,000, but then if you look at how much we're bringing in is about $242,000. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So if you move to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about our mission expenses and what's it made up of. So if you look at our mission expenses projected for next year, most of it is actually in salaries. So if you look at it, it's about 91% is in our salaries. And so why? And that includes a 3% cost of living increase. And then for our administrator, who, just to highlight, our administrator manages all the rentals of our buildings. And if you consider that, how much income that our administrator is bringing in, it's you know, $22 an hour, even that is probably, you know, pretty low, but we still are, you know, we kind of consider that as part of an increase, though, $19 to $22 an hour. But it also includes a 3% cost of living. Unfortunately, I don't think we've tried as best to go to cost of living, but because cost of living prices have increased so much, we still need to keep up with that as well. So, and then what also is under that, the next expense, which is about 14% of our budget, is UUA dues. We're a, what is it, good faith congregation? I always get that. Honor faith congregation? Honor congregation, and we give back to the UU, but then that allows us to tap into some of the resources that they have as well. And then for marketing, we've decreased it a little bit for marketing for the budget, just to kind of help meet our budget, but we still think that marketing is very important for that as well. And then we have congregational life and then religious education as well. Oh, yeah, and programming and worship is, what is that, 5.9% of the budget. And again, oh, did I look at that wrong? Okay, 2% of the budget. Yeah, 2% of the budget. I was looking at the 1,000. So if you move to the next slide. Okay, so again, what we're projecting is if there is no, that's assuming we get no change in income, right? And so we're kind of transitioning, we're growing. If we have no change in current income, we're projecting a deficit, which we'll be talking about, and what are we trying to do to kind of fill the gap of the deficit as well. So if you look at our mission income, our financial contributions that were projected is about $231,000. A fundraiser is about $10,000. Miscellaneous, and so sometimes these are things like reward points that we have, et cetera, that we gain. So we have about $1,000. So what we'll project is about $242,000, but our expenses, again, to cover, you know, the estimated mission increases is about $47,000. So if you move to the next slide, I'm going to explain a little bit about why are we running into this budget deficit. So I think the most important things is that the costs in general have increased. Cost of utilities, insurance, and services have increased, and you know, because of inflation, all costs all around have increased. But then also payroll costs have increased. We're not going to, it's not something that we would expect that, that salaries would stay stagnant over time, right? Because, we need to pay for cost of living increases, et cetera. And so this is something that we should expect every single year is payroll costs are going to be higher as well. And then COVID federal grants are pretty much spent for the intended purpose. So the COVID federal grants, the intended purpose was to help pay for employee retention, and that's what we pretty much used it for, is to help us with payroll retention. And these really did cover the budget deficits, I think, for the last 2 years to kind of get us through COVID. Now, I do want to highlight as well, I do think that, if we look at just how much we're going to be spending, I think it is kind of a fair expectation that we probably will be spending more for salaries, et cetera, every single year because of the fact that we're paying for cost of living increases. And I think that's a fair thing to say for our staff, is to have a fair wage for them as well. So how do we pay for the pay for the deficit? And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but what we're asking is, compared to last year, to having an increased financial commitment from the congregation. So as you know, we changed what we did as a stewardship perspective to say, we're not going to do pledges every single year like we did in the past. That's a lot of work from the stewardship committee, and a lot of people were saying, well, we're just going to pledge what we did last year. What we said was, we'll assume that you're pledging the same as last year unless you let us know what the change is. And so we do have about $67,000 in budget, budget reserves. So we're not like in dire straits. I don't want to panic people as well, but I think it's important that it's not sustainable if we just simply rely on reserves to kind of pay, because after 1 year, 2 years, we're going to be in a hole. So we're trying to be financially responsible as well. So if you look at the next slide. Okay, so what is needed so in terms of what's needed, so for stewardship, and again, this is always kind of a hard concept with a congregation because we're talking about money, and money is always a hard thing. And so this is something that I think we need to talk about more, and so this is kind of part of that discussion as well. So Live Oak and every other UU congregation is paid for by donations from their members. But we do recognize that in the UU and the UUA recognize that everybody's financial contributions are different. Everybody's financial situation is different. So this is not like a judging moment of I'm better than you. It's more of what we ask is to kind of give what you can financially as well. What is the recommended financial contribution from the UUA? So if you look it up, what they'll say is the UUA recommends a tithing of 5% to the church and 5% to other charitable organizations. That's directly from the UUA. And so we wanted to make that clear just because different knowledge of what it takes to run a church and what financial contribution is needed. On average, it costs about $1,900 per member, or $1,930 per member, or about $160 per month to run the church on mission costs only. So that assumes $290,000 and 150 members. Now, we recognize that not everybody can contribute to that, and so some people contribute more, some people contribute less. But this is just to say, how much does it actually take to run the church as well? So if you move to the next slide. So this is, if you can read this slide as well. Okay, so this is, what we're asking people, if they can you, what's that? Oh, I know it's hard to read. So what I could say, I'll kind of go through the slide there as well. So what we're asking people is if they can to level up their donations. And so if you noticed on this pie graph, about 35% of the congregation donate between $1 and $40 a month for the congregation. And if you look at the next, I believe it's, I think it's 15% is about 40 to 80% as well. So about half of our congregation donates probably about $80 or less per month for our congregation. And then if you go beyond that, there's a certain percentage of each level going up to, I believe it's $750 or more a month as well. So, you know, what we're asking people to do is just to look at their financial contributions, and if you can, you know, consider leveling up for the month. So if you're at the 1 to 40, and if you can, try to get to maybe above $40 a month. Or if you're in another situation where you're at $40 to $80 a month, consider going from, you know, 80 to, you know, above $80 a month. Again, we understand that everybody's financial situation is a little bit different, so it all involves looking at your personal finances, seeing if you can make that contribution as well. And then even if you're above that, look to see if you can kind of get to the next band of donation as well. Why is it so important to do that? Well, I think increasing our financial contributions, especially in 2024, will allow us to pay our staff fair wages and provide our services and educational programs for the long term. And again, I think it's incumbent upon us to help support our staff, especially, you know, for cost of living increases, etc. And this won't be the only discussion we'll have about this. We'll have monthly discussions from the stewardship group and updates about this, and then, you know, moving forward, how are we doing in terms of our goal as well. And so if you want to move to the next slide. So I'm going to transition here. I know I talked a lot about numbers and money, etc., but I wanted to kind of transition this over to Becky, who's going to talk a little bit about her relationship and stewardship as well. So.
Thanks, Joe. Well, I'm up here because I've been egged into kind of humiliating myself before the congregation. But this might be one. But the purpose of this is for a couple of reasons. One, you know, a lot of detail, a lot of numbers, a lot of pie charts, but the bottom line is that we have a $40-something thousand deficit for next year's budget, and we've got to make that up somehow, or make some horribly unpleasant cuts. And so that is why we're talking about this now. We feel that perhaps some members of the congregation, maybe all of us, have not traditionally had enough information about what it costs to run this church. And this is what the reality is. And so that's why we're talking about this today. And I kind of recently went through, really, I felt embarrassed. I didn't feel embarrassed in front of other people. I felt embarrassed in my own house, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. So I was in a meeting, I don't know, a few months ago, in which we first broke down Live Oak's mission costs. And keep in mind, when we're talking about mission and we talk about how much of it is salary, we don't have mission without our staff. They are what make us have this church and have our goals and our sermons and our programs. And so they're almost one and the same, and it's important to recognize that. And it's why in a church salary is such a humongous part of a budget. But we were in a meeting, we broke it down by cost per member of just keeping the place open, being a church. And we came up with the figure, Joel's mentioned it, and I saw the figure right there on my phone. And you know, I have a tendency to do this. I was like, well, I'm cool. I'm doing okay here. I felt pretty, you know, like, where's everybody else? And, you know, I'm feeling pretty smug about it. And in the church I grew up in, I'd say I felt right with God, you know? And so, but I got home and I'm mouthing off to Wayne about it, you know, the meeting and how much it costs and for crying out loud and where is everybody and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, you know, I'm dense. It took a few minutes for it to sink in. Oh, that was per member, not pledging unit, which we now call financial commitment. It's not the household. And I really felt embarrassed because I probably was, I don't know, I can't even remember, but probably in the meeting, I'm probably going, yeah, that's what we need. And then I go home and, you know, I felt really, personally, I just felt embarrassed. So Wayne and I kind of got our act together, and we, you know, viewing it that way was really important to us to understand what it costs for Live Oak to exist. We didn't think we were giving nearly enough, and importantly for us, it was less than we could afford. And that's really what the issue is we're asking people to look and examine how much they give, and can they level up? You know, can you give more? And just examine that. And my experience was that I had not had enough information really to examine it very well. So the point of the story is that new information helps us look squarely at how much we support the things that we value. So I can sometimes be pretty blunt, and this is some information that just really shocked me. And it shocked me that I hadn't known it before. And one of my pet peeves is how sometimes we liberal people go through life feeling, well, as I was, pretty smug about my right values. But here at Live Oak, we pay our staff below average. And that's going to a modest UU scale, and we are below average. We don't provide health insurance for our employees. While the board felt strongly this year that we had to have a cost of living raise, nothing extravagant, not merit, though much deserved, just a cost of living raise. But last year, keep in mind that we were able to raise our employees only 2%. And last year, inflation was over 8%. If you're on Social Security, as I am, I know it's hard to believe, but you know, we got a nice raise in Social Security because inflation was over 8%. We have bathrooms that are not ADA compliant in this building, and they're not welcoming to all people. And we want to be a welcoming place. But we overlook what it takes sometimes to get these things done and what it takes to pay for them, because that's, that's required. And we also handle some crises by hook or by crook. And we're lucky that we get through them as we do, and it's mostly because of some really dedicated staff and members who do a lot of this, and they always will, and that's great. That's part of what makes our community. But it's important to recognize that these things get fixed sometimes in kind of desperate ways. So here, you know, if I were back at little Becky at First Baptist Church, I would be putting money, even as a very young child, in that collection basket, because that donation for our family was linked to how much you loved God, whether you were going to get into heaven. But we can't do that here. It might be easier to raise money if we could, because hell is a very bad place and you don't want to go there, right? But we don't. But you're here rather than being at brunch. And so I know that you're here because Live Oak means something to you, as it does to me. We have friends and fellowship here, amazing sermons. You know, I kill many a Sunday afternoon looking up stuff that Reverend Joanna has led us to, and they're terrific. And we have fabulous music, and we have fabulous classes to learn and examine our own beliefs and learn about other people. And outside of this church, UU voices need to be heard in this community. We talk about this all the time, how we want to be a beacon in our community, and I think that we are. So the UUA only suggests we give 5% to the church, when 10% of your income is a more typical church tithe. And we're not asking for 10%, and we're not asking for 5% if you can't afford it, of course, as Joel discussed. We understand that. But we are asking that you do what I did unintentionally and with a lot of humility once I realized it. We're asking you to look closely at what you get here, what you want here, what you give here, and whether you can afford to give more. And that's where we are. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate you listening to my testimonial, which sounds more important than it is. Thanks.
So thank you, Becky. You know, I think that was quite moving for me, though, too, to hear as well. So before we go into voting, this is a good chance to have a Q&A from the congregation, just to talk about. Well, we can go into the voting if people want to vote early. I do want to highlight that there is two things on the. If you want to scroll down to the next one, there is two things on the ballot, and there's approval of the budget, the 2024 budget. Details of the budget, you know, we've kind of sent in the newsletter, and we had a Q&A, but we've also included a link to the budget as well if you want to kind of hone in on the budget. And then the vote on approval of the Reproductive Freedom Congregation as well is on the ballot as well. We need 1/3 of the congregation to vote, 50 members for quorum. We have an online forum, which the due date for that is December 16, 2023. We're asking one ballot per proxy, so you can vote for, if you have a proxy and you're approved for that proxy, you can vote, but you need to fill another ballot in for them. The other thing is, for those that cannot, or how do I say, do not want to use the electronic version, we do have paper ballots. I've got to grab those, but I've got paper ballots that we can provide. But before we go into voting, and I know, sorry, you guys are now focused on the voting part, but I think it is good. Actually, CT has a microphone to ask the board questions for that you might have. So I think Mike raised his hand.
Can I just put one quick plug?
Okay.
If you were so moved by Becky's speech, we're going to do monthly updates to kind of give you an update on where we are on the deficit, and do budgets, and all that kind of stuff every month. And so we're going to kind of a year-round stewardship, talk about the resources in the church a lot more often. But if you are so moved, feel free to go to liveoaku.org/donate. There's a link to get to your financial commitment form. Let them know, or let us know what your commitment is.
Oh, and one more thing before you get started. I'm putting on headphones on my ears, and I'm connected to Eileen on the live stream. And so if there is a chat, if there's someone on the live stream and they have a chat, she's gonna communicate that through me through the headphones. So, and I'll mention those as well.
So my question is, back to the slide of the pie chart on level up. It mentions you're looking for an increase, move to the next piece of the pie if you can, but it's saying that it's financial contribution by family unit, or is it by individual member?
So the slide itself this is actually by household. So we didn't break it down per member on this one. This is per unit. So I don't know if CT, if you wanted to talk to that a little bit more.
What I'm wanting to know is what are we allocating here?
Yeah.
Family unit or family?
So there's no change in the structure, and we didn't want to focus too much on the per person cost. In other congregations, in other faiths, there's actually a fee, no matter what your financial situation is, to attend and be a part of the church. That is not what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
We just wanted to highlight the average cost per person with the knowledge that there are very different household situations. So this is the by pledge, or by financial commitment per pledge unit, as we used to call it, by household, typically. Some households have 2 different pledge units. And you know, what we're asking, what we're trying to accomplish this year is an increase of $47,000 is much different, much larger than we've ever done in the past in terms of our 1-week stewardship campaign that we typically have. That's why we're shifting to a new model. That's why we're going to be talking about this a lot more. And that's why the ask is different. We're not asking for a 10% increase, because that wouldn't get us there. You know, and that's not necessarily, in terms of fairness, maybe fair to ask a flat percentage across the board. But if we look at, you know, people, if you can get to the next pie slice, that has a really, really meaningful impact overall to the congregation. And so we're just asking, dig deep, you know, this just kind of highlights where we stand and talks about, you know, where we are as a congregation.
So I want to make one more clarification too. So we were talking about unit versus, and I know it's kind of we kind of left the unit off the slide because it's, you know, kind of confusing nomenclature, but we have 111 households, so donating households. So if you have a household of 4, you know, or 2, you're donating and then you count for those members, right? And we have 152 members, right? So these pie charts and the leveling up is per unit, so part of that 111 units.
If the leveling up doesn't cover the deficit, are we going to go to those, the $67,000 in reserves?
That's the first thing that we would do. Again, we wouldn't prefer to do that strategy because, again, for the long term, we won't be able to do that next year because that will all be used up, right? So and also if you have kind of an emergency like a flood, you know, then it's very difficult to, you know, that might use up a lot more that you haven't planned on as well. So there's kind of like that rainy day kind of thing as well. So the reason why we mentioned that 67,000 is again, we're not in dire straits, you know, but what I'd like to say is we're looking at the long-term health of our congregation, and I think this is how we get there.
Yeah, basically, we can't do this again next year, y'all. So we have to get to a sustainable point.
Mike, did you have a question?
The other mic.
There's too many mics.
Yeah.
You can never
Just
have
got a
too many
mic.
mics.
Someone handed him a mic.
So you said something about letting you know what your new pledge is going to be. Is there have I missed how to do that? Or am I sending an email, or is there an online form?
Yeah, so starting in January, so I think
You
CT.
can do it right now.
It's on the donate page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it is on you can go to the Live Oak UU. There is a donate now button that you can do. there is, not to donate now, but there is a way that you can update your financial contribution on the website right now as well.
What was that link you gave us about 5 minutes ago?
/ donate. Also, you could just start giving more, and that's really the important part.
Yeah.
Forget about the folder.
I just wanted to echo some of what I've heard. My household insurance went up a lot this year. And of course, immediately I think about my own situation. But the people who run this church for us, who work here, their household insurance went up a fair bit this year too. And so it's easy to talk about how many, what the rate of inflation and all the rest of that is, but yeah. So I would encourage everybody to take a good look at what they're doing.
So CT, I don't know if you don't mind maybe repeating, it's the link that you mentioned before as well.
The easiest thing to do is just go to the website and search for what you want.
Yeah. So and actually, I do want to highlight though too is again, we're not doing our stewardship. We're obviously not doing our stewardship today, but I think what we're saying is coming in next year, we're actually going to be providing much more kind of information and tracking, this as well. So again, we have a new paradigm shift on how we do, financial contributions. I know that usually it was like we had this pledge drive at the end of the year, yada, yada. We're not doing that. We're kind of focused, we're going to be starting in 2024 giving more information about how to do this. So,
not actually a question, but a comment. One thing I'm gonna do before the month is out is look at my employer contribution matching, because I should be able to get matched for at least a portion of contribution. So that's another way that I can up my total contributions to the church. So if you have an employer that does contribution matching, you might want to look into whether Live Oak is approved as a match, because it is for my employer.
So one thing to highlight, even though I think that's a great idea, I think because we are a religious institution, some of the employee matching, they don't cover that for a religious institution. So I just want to highlight that. But I do think it is good to look at, your employer to see, that information.
Yeah, we do have some options to kind of get around a little bit of that, because we have a separate fund that just does community engagement, but it doesn't go to necessarily all of our mission costs. But
yeah, so like something like Benevity or something, they say that you can't, you can only use it for specific charitable purposes. So. But I think, but I do think it's good to look at that. So.
I have a quick comment.
Oh.
Answering Jenna, your comment or your question, reminding me that it's not just up to us, that's what we need to look at, but we're also hoping to increase membership, which is another part of that building of our, closing the gap.
I'm not quite sure how to say this, but I grew up in a lower middle class family where money was really tight. I had a lot of serious mental illnesses, so but my parents really never talked about that much with us, tried to protect us from it, And so in some places I've been to, like in church, sometimes I feel like when money comes up, I'm treated like a child again, I want to know. I mean, tell me as much as you can tell me and let me know. Because I'm an adult. And it makes a difference. And so I tell you, when I learned what I learned about this information, we have great staff. We have wonderful staff. But if we should lose our minister, our RU director, and we have to recruit, we can't pay health insurance. Or we can't say, cost of living raises, or, I really appreciate the information. So thank you very much.
I know some of us tend to be a little more visual than others. We need to see things to understand. I think it would be really great if we could send out an email with step-by-step for people for donate and for making changes to what they're planning on giving in the future. If we had something like that come in an email to everyone.
Tim, it's Sue. I'll answer. The Stewardship Committee is going to send out a detailed letter early in January, both with copies of this impressive pie chart and a paper copy of how to update your commitment form and a detailed explanation of why this is important. And then each month, on the second Sunday of the month, you're going to hear a brief update on budgetary kinds of situations and how we're doing with increasing pledges.
And there'll be someone out here.
Oh, yeah,
in a
table
booth
in the narthex.
to ask questions and to update things.
Yeah, so, no, great suggestion, and it's in the works. I could say that.
It's coming.
Oh, yeah, so I'm getting a notice in my ear that there's someone from the chat. So John, before you go, I want to get the chat real quick. Can you, Eileen, tell me. Okay, so what she's saying is that there is in the chat, somebody's kind of also posted the financial commitment link as well. So you can view, by the way, as an aside, you can view this whole thing again. It's going to be taped on the live stream as well, but it's in the chat, and we'll provide more information as well. So.
Yeah, it looked like there's a possibility of a small net income this year, which is really unspent ERTC probably. Will that be used to roll over and close some of this deficit?
So maybe clarify that.
I mean, it's part of the reserves. I guess maybe we should clarify a little bit kind of how our budget works. It's just a cash flow budget. It's the same kind of thing you do monthly at home probably. And so we're just projecting 1 year out instead of 1 month out that most people do to budget, right? And so we're guessing based on the 67,000 in reserves is like, if you think about the money you have in your savings account, that's what we'll use to cover expenses in excess of income next year. But again, we can't keep doing that year over year. And so the goal is to get to net, to close that out and to be able to next year at this time pass a $0 budget, a net neutral budget.
So there's a question in the chat. Hold on real quick. I got to get Eileen on the line. So Eileen.
You gotta multitask here, Joel. Come on. Text messaging. What else?
So the question is share the plate part of our budget or is separate? So share the plate, is kind of a combination of the two, right? So share the plate, we do share that with an organization, but a portion of that goes to Live Oak. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, so we're still going to have share the plate. We split the plate, I believe, between, for undesignated gifts. You can also designate to have the donation go only to that organization. That's not included in the budget. We don't budget for that because it's just a pass through.
And I thank everybody who worked so hard to put this together.
Well, actually, I mean, it takes a village, to be honest with you. I mean, I could tell you the folks from, CT on the finance committee. He also works on the stewardship committee as well. We've got a great team on the stewardship committee as well. Work very hard. Catherine is not just the treasurer, but she's also on the stewardship committee as well. I think we've got a wonderful team. Tim and Sue are on the stewardship committee. Nancy's on the stewardship committee. Becky was on the stewardship committee as part of the membership as well. Diane contributes. So let me just tell you, just to make a plug for Diane, none of these numbers would be available without Diane because she puts all that together for us to digest. And so she tracks every single dollar that gets into our, so I want, so if you want to give a round of applause to Diane, I know she's not here, but. So yes, I definitely agree with you, Bill. It's been, I have to say, it takes a village, and there's been a lot of people contributing to this as well, so. Any other questions before we go? Jackie? Oh, wait, can you get her the mic so that the live stream people can hear too? I'm trying to get CT some exercise, so.
Yeah, he's almost never moves. Tell me if this is a question.
It's not on.
Oh, yeah.
Is it? I couldn't hear you.
I don't think it's on.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Feel free to let me know if this is a question for another time. How are we calculating children into the members of the church and also the cost per member per month?
Right. So a member, to be a member, I believe you have to be above 14, right? And you have to sign the book, right? And so we do have, so children, unless they're a certain age and unless they've actually became a member, and I think there's just a handful of children that have done that. And I wouldn't say they're children, they're young adults now too, but they have contributed, they're members. Now I can tell you, like for example, Eileen is part of our, she's a member, but we contribute for her as part of that household unit as well. So I would just say, as a family, we're just saying, if you look back at that pie chart, it's leveling up for a household versus individual member, if that makes it easier.
Children aren't counted as members, basically. So
What's that?
the
Yeah.
answer is children are not counted as members.
Yeah, so bottom line,
Yeah,
I went round about it because as a UU, we'll have to go into every exception, but unless they actually are members, they're not members as children, so. You'll know.
It's not part of the number.
When we were looking at the
Oh, you might need
costs-
Becky, can you come up here so that you can?
Oh, yeah. Here.
Just to clarify, when all these costs that we're talking about per member and things like that, we were using the adult membership, people who have signed the book. So kids are just a beautiful extra.
Oh, thank you for putting it that way.
They're essential.
They're a gorgeous extra. I get any credit for that?
Some of them.
I didn't say everything.
Anything else before we close? If you, I apologize. I got to run somewhere to get the paper ballots for those that want the paper ballots. What's that?
No stopping at Starbucks.
No, I'm not going to stop at Starbucks. It's too late for that. But anyways, and then you can vote online. So I'll be right back if you want a paper ballot and with some pins. With that said, if there's no other questions, burning questions, I'm going to close it here. Please vote. You've got a week to vote. We need 50 votes to get quorum. So please vote. So thank you.
Up here.
Oh.
Give me 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are we adjourned?
We're adjourned though, aren't we?
We are adjourned.
Oh.
I want to tell you that I work for
We didn't have to do a Robert's rules or
Wait, Eileen's saying something. What was that? Oh.
I have to go. I've got a phone call.
Oh, wait, hold on. I got Eileen, you can end the live stream now. Okay, what was that?
No, I work for 40 years.